Okay guys, we are now on the second video, and for this video I'm going to talk about morphology and syntax. So let's get to it. Let's start with morphology. So morphology has to do with word structure, the structure of words. And so when we look at an individual word, what we are doing is looking for the smallest pieces of meaning within that word. It is very important to remember that morphology has to do with meaning and not sound. And a lot of times the sound is correlated with the meaning, but not always. So when we get to morphology, we'll be all done with thinking about phonetics and phonology, done with thinking about sound, and then you have to just kind of throw away everything that you know about sound and just focus on meaning. So let's take a look at the two example words that I have, California and cats. And so if we look at the word California, it's long, it has a lot of letters, it has several syllables, but it only has one single morpheme. It only has one single piece of meaning. So if we break it down, the cal doesn't mean anything different. The if doesn't have any meaning, although we do have a word if in English, but it is not related in meaning in any way to the meaning of the word California. It's just a coincidence that they are spelled alike and sound alike. The same with the or and the nya. They have no distinct meaning within that word. So we can say that the word California is one single morpheme, one piece of meaning. And then if we compare that to the word cats, we can actually see that there are two pieces of meaning within the word cats. First, we have the word cat, which means a feline animal, and then we have the plural s. So this is what we're doing. We're breaking down words. We are looking at roots of words, suffixes, prefixes, and all different kinds of combinations of those. And that is morphology. When we get to morphology, we are going to mostly focus on English again, but we'll also see at least a couple of examples from foreign languages and how those work. It's really interesting. Here is a common word that you'll see in a lot of morphology textbooks, anti-disestablishmentarianism. And I've just broken it down here so that you can see all the different pieces. The piece establish is the root, and then we have a couple of prefixes and several suffixes that can go on the end of establish. And the idea is that this is how these morphemes are stored in our brain as separate entities. And so when we see a new word that we've never heard before, maybe we come across a brand new verb, if we hear someone saying it and they add the prefix anti to the beginning of it, then we know what it means. We know that it means against whatever that root means. So that is basically the idea of morphology. Okay, syntax. Syntax is a huge area. There is so much complexity to this, and this is probably the most studied area of linguistics. There are all kinds of different theories and different models for how languages can break down sentences. We are going to just be looking at the first half of the syntax chapter for this class because honestly it is a little too in-depth for the amount of time that we have to cover in this class. So basically syntax is looking at sentences or utterances and then looking at the words within those sentences and how they are organized, how they relate to each other. So one of the big areas here is parts of speech, looking at words within a sentence and the function that those words have within that sentence, and then how those can be organized, because every language is going to have different rules for how you can make a sentence, how you can structure a sentence. We are going to be doing tree diagrams, which I know for some of you, you have done that in the past, and tree diagrams are kind of an old way of looking at syntax, but it is a very useful way of analyzing our sentences, and so we're going to focus on that a little bit, a little later on in this semester. Okay, so that is all I want to talk about for morphology and syntax, and the next video is going to talk about semantics and pragmatics, and then once we get done with that, then we'll look at some examples and activities.